Welcome to my little corner in the internet. I'm Nadine. I'm traveling with my dog Marjorie, and I welcome you wholeheartedly to Everyday Alchemy, where I walk the 12-week path of Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. Journey with me through the mess and magic of life itself. This is week 10, recovering a sense of self-protection. So I'm doing the recap, week 10. I don't feel like it. Actually, I just want to go and doom scroll. And that's funny because look at that sunset. It's gorgeous, isn't it? I'm at my favorite spot, my favorite place. I have been cruising the coastal area around Quiberon for 2 days. And this is my favorite spot, and it's my last week in France. And I don't want to do that recap, but okay. Week 10, recovering a sense of self-protection. I have my notes here, because as you know, I prep each week before I start it so that I know what I have to await, so that I can, I don't need that, so that I can sort of spot the red cars, if you know what I mean. Because there's like this thought experiment, if you know it, I don't know. It's about, if I ask you now, how many red cars did you see on the drive to wherever? And you say, I don't know. And then the next day you look out for the red cars and you actually put your observation skills to it, and then you know how many red cars you saw. And that's the same with the prepping of the week. So I did that. And this week was about recovering a sense of self-protection and uncovering toxic patterns. Blocked, we know who we are, unhappy. Unblocked is unknown and threatening, dangerous. That is very true. And she talks a lot about the main trigger, the main patterns or blocks that we establish and cling to, because they numb us, they take the fear away, right? So she talks about workaholism, she talks about food, about sex, about drugs, unrequited love, and to-do lists, busyness, and all of that kind of stuff. She also talks about fame and competition, which doesn't really apply to me that much, I think, because first of all, I know that sometimes I feel like other people have more success than I do because they're better than I am. But in fact, I feel like I'm just not at the energy level. I'm just not there to be able to hold that kind of energy that is required to have that kind of success. And I also am unsure, which I send out as well, right? I'm unsure if I want to be successful in that way, like if I want to be known, if I want my face to be out there, because I know that I have beauty within myself, and I know that I have a certain charisma if I feel like it, and if I'm on top of things, and if I have something on my heart and soul that I want as a message to go out or something. But I have crooked teeth, and I have a stub nose, and I have strange hair sometimes, and also my chin line is very not existent, basically. So I'm not your typical pretty girl, right? So I'm kind of like, I don't even know if I could hold all the hate and all the bullying that would probably come along if I would get attention and would be able to stir something up. But since I don't even know if I want to be known for what I'm doing, I'm quite sure that that is part of why it's not like going viral or anything. I just like doing the things I do. I like remembering what I went through. I like doing stuff with the purpose of maybe assisting other people or facilitating for other people choices to make and pathways to take. So it's more like I know why I'm not like in that sense successful and why I can't live off of my YouTube videos, for example. But for me, the topic that stood out this week really was the toxic habits that keep us blocked. And what I really liked is the phrase, the unconscious wants truth, and it ceases to speak to those who want something else more than truth. And I know that in my toxic behaviors towards myself and my body and my mind and my soul, I don't seek truth in that behavior. What I seek is a way out, an easier way out, a numbing way out, a way out that doesn't require me to feel the things that I need to feel in that moment, right? So the majority of stuff that I did this week was connected to the toxic patterns, mostly because I know that I have a binge problem, and I know that I'm a person that has sort of like an addictive tendencies, but I also know that there are certain environments and people when I'm around them and in these kind of environments that they sort of are more subtle and not as intense. I don't know what that tells me, other than I need to create in my life the environment that I feel safe in and that I feel good in, with being myself and being seen and being understood, like leading a life that then leads to me not wanting to block myself with those toxic patterns, right? But anyway, the things, the exercises were to write down 5 small victories, 3 nurturing acts that you take for yourself as an artist, 3 actions that comfort the artist, and 3 promises that you make to yourself, which I just now gathered. I broke one already, which is negative self-talk. Because, honestly, the whole day I was like, I just read. Like, I read Manly P. Hall's compilation of mysteries of the world, and I answered a few texts on my friends and voice messages, and we did a walk, 2 little walks, and apart from that I was sleeping and eating and driving from one beach to another, and I felt very bad for doing that, and I felt awful, and I don't even know why, because it is my first day wholly off without any responsibility for 2.5 weeks. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I just always feel like I'm not doing enough, like I'm missing out on life and the secrets of life, and like all the ripe berries are there, but I just seem to not be able to even find the bushes they're growing on, and everyone else is happy and fine and doesn't find any fault with how things are, and I always blame myself for how things are, which obviously is right because I create my reality, so therefore this reality is the way it is. But my reality is beautiful, do you know what I mean? And then when I don't feel like I'm giving it enough appreciation or acknowledgement, I feel dire and like I'm not good enough to even experience it. So I'm kind of like in that mood right now. Which is funny, because another exercise this week was to write down your touchstones. And the touchstones are those things that sort of a compilation of what makes you truthfully, genuinely happy and fulfilled. And touchstones that I wrote down were, for example, the sunlight through the leaves of rooftops in the forest, like rooftop leaves, or beach grass that is swaying in the wind, sunsets and sunrises, and we're actually having a sunset right now, and it is my touchstone. And birds flew by, which I also wrote down. I wrote down watching birds on invisible currents in the sky. So like, there are the touchstones, and they should remind you of your inner truth, right? I don't know, maybe it's hormones. I have no idea what's wrong today, but something is off. Then we also had to write down the awful truth, which I did as part of one of my morning pages. Awful truths are the habits that I have, the secret payoffs that I get off of them, the toxic friends and understanding friends, and how they sort of correlate to your own toxic patterns and what you get out of it. Oh, my hair looked dreadful as well. Anyway, so this week was, I feel like it was a good week, but it was also sort of like a hard week. And not hard in the sense that I was like physically working a lot, or that I was mentally overwhelmed, or that spiritually I felt off. It was just, I feel like I feel like sometimes it is absolutely fine and alright to not be on top of the class and on top of the game. And I feel like the past 2 weeks before this week, meaning week 8 and week 9, I was really top of class and was really on top of things, and I felt good. And it is obviously tied to my cycle, no question about that, but I feel very off this week. But for me, week 10, as of right now, as I'm doing this recap, has been a lot to swallow. And it was far less rewarding than the other weeks, because I knew my toxic patterns, and I also knew that I cling to them, and I also knew that they're deeply ingrained within me, and they're not only coming out to block me as an artist. I feel like they're also a protective force when it comes to life throwing stuff at you. So not quite sure, but I'm off this week. So week 10 wasn't exactly how I wanted this recap to look like, but that's how it is. I look dreadful. I feel not really dreadful, but I feel like a little bit off, and I'm gonna be honest about that. So see you in week 11, recovering a sense of autonomy. Do you see that? It's so gorgeous. And we have 2 days to explore the coast. It's so gorgeous. I need to get out of the car.